Welcome to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. I'm your host, Greg McDonough. Each week, we hear real time stories from athletes and CEOs on how to maximize performance through an endurance mindset. Let's get started. Welcome to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. I'm your host, Greg McDonough. I am super excited for our guest today. She is the definition of determination. She started her triathlon career from the slow lane of the pool and ultimately became a two-time world champion and Hall of Famer. After retiring as the number one triathlete in the world, she has now coached 11 world champions in triathlon and Ironman, along with 2 Olympic medalists. She is considered the number one female triathlon coach in the world. Please welcome Siri Lindley. Siri, it's so amazing to have you on the show. Thank you for taking the time today.
Oh, Greg, I've been looking forward to this, so thank you for having me.
Sorry, that was my phone responding to your name.
Of course, I'd always.
Anyway, so as you know, we love talking about endurance and the endurance mindset. So, Siri, how has your endurance mindset impacted your life unexpectedly?
I think having an endurance mindset just changes everything, opens up opportunities for truly making what seems impossible possible. It opens up the possibility of overcoming things that you maybe think you won't be able to overcome. The ability to have an endurance mindset gives us the knowledge that things take time, especially magnetic things take time. Overcoming change, challenge takes time. And I think a lot of people sometimes stop short because they want things to happen quicker. They want to achieve that, at the map quicker. But the greatest things in life don't necessarily come quickly. They take time. And during that time, and which inevitably we will succeed and we will fail along the way. We'll fail multiple times along the way. But it's when we fail that we learn. It's when we learn that we grow. It's when we grow, we make that progress that leads to us being able to achieve that impossible goal. So all of that takes time. You must have endurance. You must be willing to wake up each day, do the things that aren't necessarily fun every day, that each day you're laying another brick and ultimately you will have built this amazing, whatever it is, this amazing goal, you will achieve it. But having an endurance mindset has led me to achieving my greatest dreams. It's saved my life, led me to finding the love of my life and believing that that's possible. So having an endurance mindset is absolutely necessary, in my opinion. Everybody has the ability to do it. I believe it's just a matter of removing the governor switch that comes on when we've kind of felt like I've worked hard enough. I should have reached that goal by now. It's removing that and being open to the beauty of the entire journey.
It's very well said, and it's so difficult to do, right? I mean, even those of us who live in this endurance mindset, we think we do, we always run into that challenge of like, am I taking this too far? Am I going in the wrong direction? Self-doubt creeps in. I'd love to know sort of when did you discover you had this mindset? Like how far back? Was it day 10? you know, you're 10 days old and you figured this out. Like when over the journey did you realize, hey, I've got this mindset that's really a powerful tool?
I don't know that I knew what it was, but I think that endurance mindset really is born in your pain. That endurance mindset is born in um, those tougher moments. So for me, I mean, my childhood was really difficult for me. And maybe if I shared that story, people would say, that's not too bad. But for me, it was a really tough time. And it was in being able to wake up each day and believe in a better day that got me through that really tough time, to constantly search for better ways of thinking, better ways of being. And so I think my resilience which I kind of see an endurance mindset as being resilience.
Mhm.
Um, I believe that all of our greatest superpowers are born in our pain. And therefore, when you're going through a tough time, yeah, you know, through this, we're going to strengthen. Through this time, you are becoming more. It makes it a little bit it makes it a little bit easier to move through whatever that challenge is. So I would say that my endurance mindset was born as a young kid and just having something inside of me that said, tomorrow can be better. Tomorrow can be
Mhm.
better. Tomorrow can be better. Just keep working towards it.
I like how you use the word superpower and how it's born out of pain. What's one of the superpowers that you've discovered through your journey that you didn't that you d again, did you discovered through your journey?
Let me use an example. So everyone listening, you can determine what your superpower is. I think about, one of the biggest stories I tell is when my father found out that I was gay, he basically disowned me. And that was devastating because he was my best friend. He was my greatest supporter. He was my hero. I looked up to him. And in that moment of devastation, um, I didn't let it destroy me. I let it fuel me. And that pain set me on this desperate mission to prove, most importantly, to myself that even as a gay woman, I can achieve extraordinary things. I can make a difference in this world. I can inspire others and that I could love. I was desperate to discover these things, which is when I took on triathlon. Totally not the sport for me. I don't have to swim. Had never really biked before. I'd been a field hockey, ice hockey, and lacrosse player. But this sport just seemed like the perfect vehicle through which I could find me, find my strength, feel safe in my skin, find an identity that served me. And in that, we all have this reason why we pursue certain goals. Why does it matter? Why are you willing to literally die for this, to make this happen? Why is it so important? Wanting to be the best in the world in triathlon, which was the craziest goal. I mean, I came in dead last in my first race. But for me, the meaning I gave that is that when I do that, when I become the girl that can be the best in the world, I will be someone who knows that when she lives fearlessly, authentically as herself, when she goes all in, when she dedicates her heart, soul, and spirit to a certain goal, anything and everything is possible. So over 8 years, and it took 8 years, that requires this mindset. It took a lot of failures. But over time, as I celebrated my progress every single day, even though I was far from winning, as I celebrated progress that I was making physically, mentally, emotionally, I felt success. That's how I didn't get discouraged. That's how I kept showing up day after day after day, pursuing this impossible dream. 8 years later, I became the world champion and I had found my way to that point. And so that's where the identity, because I'll tell you, Greg, I was laughed at every single day. I showed up at the pool and I tried to get into a lane that was way quicker than I was capable of. People laughed at me. People got angry with me. But throughout it all, I was on this desperate mission and I needed to be stronger than that. I needed to put my ego aside and believe in the possibility of me. Believe that if I go all in, if I keep working day after day after day, someday, even if I'm 90 years old, someday I will achieve that goal. So the pain of rejection, the pain of losing my best friend, my hero, my father, led to this relentlessness, this resilience, this fortitude that saw me achieve truly this impossible dream. The odds of me becoming a world champion were literally one in how many billion. So when you think about that, and later on, this is what led to my forgiving my father, because I realized that had that not happened, who would I be today? Had he not rejected me, had I not felt like because of who I am, I'm being told I'll never be loved, I'll never be successful, what goals would I have pursued?
Mm.
What would it, where would I be today? So I encourage everyone listening, that deepest pain, whether it was, being fired from a job that meant the world to you or being rejected by someone you loved. Who wouldn't be in your life today if it wasn't for that person or that experience? What would you not have done if it weren't for that person or that experience? And therefore, what would you not have achieved had that not? Because if we are going to blame the people that have hurt us for all the bad in our life, we also have to blame them for all the good.
Mm.
Today, I called my father. It was about just 7 years ago. We'd been apart for about 25 years. And the fact is that after 2 years, he started calling. But every time I took that as an opportunity to just bite his head off and tell him what a horrible father he was. So eventually he stopped calling me. I was doing to him basically what he had done to me. But later on, about maybe 8 years ago, I realized I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for my father. And I also realized that holding on to that anger and that pain and that resentment was only holding me back. And so as I actually called my father and I said, I forgive you. And I actually want to thank you for being exactly the father I needed you to become the woman that I am so proud to be today. And he'd been in just as much pain as I'd been in. He was hurting just as much. He'd followed my whole career. He said how sorry he was and how much he loved me. So oftentimes, everyone, the reason why I'm sharing this story is that I would love for you to unload the pain and the burden of that anger, resentment towards someone or something that really hurt you. And I encourage you to put on a different set of glasses and look at who did you become because of it? What are your superpowers? Is it your resilience? Is it your humor? Is it your, work ethic? Is it your courage? Think about what your superpower is and think about where that was born. And as you do that, you'll actually feel a sense of gratitude towards what happened.
Mm.
And that's the ultimate gift that we get to give ourselves. And it empowers us and it fuels us and it gives us even more energy to pursue every other goal in the future.
Siri, that's such a powerful lesson. And really, audience members, think about what we're talking about and apply that to your life. There's so many questions I want to ask. And the first one is like, when did becoming a world champion come into the picture from being basically a novice triathlete age grouper to, wow, I actually can have some potential in this and going for becoming a professional and ultimately becoming a world champion?
Well, this is where I got laughed at because it was after my first race where I came in dead last. Now, I didn't tell the world about this. They would have probably put me away somewhere. But I told my mom, she was so proud of me. And when I crossed the line, I'll never forget. She said, "Oh, Siri, you did it. Now you can put all your time and energy into something that you're good at." And I thought, no, Mom, I'm going to be the best in the world one day. And it was such a crazy goal. Like she looked at me like I was out of my mind. But I feel in life that when we have this extraordinary dream, as crazy as it sounds, we are so much more likely to take massive action to get as close to that as we can. What's the quote? Shoot for the moon, and the worst that can happen is you'll land with the stars. And I feel in my life, I've always done that. I am going to set a goal that's way beyond anything I could ever dream of, and I'm going to work towards it. Because at least in doing that, I'm going to land somewhere that I'm really proud of. So it wasn't a buildup of, stat proof, winning races and saying, oh, maybe this is possible. It was on day one. I'm going to be the best in the world. So in that, what has to happen when you set this crazy goal? So you're all listening and saying, okay, Siri, so I set this crazy goal, but then what? Then you show up as future you. Future you, the one that is the best in the world. What does her day look like every day? What does she do every day? Well, I modeled the best athletes in the world. I learned what they were doing. Well, she's going to train 5 to 6 hours a day. She's going to go beyond what she thinks she can every single day. She is going to eat like the best in the world. She's going to recover like the best. She is going to show up and believe like the best in the world. So, for example, future me, the one that is going to be the best in the world, what does she believe about failure? Failure is a necessary part of achieving success. I'm going to learn. I'm going to grow. I'm becoming the person I need to become. Okay, so future you, what does she believe about success? Well, success is progress. As long as I am making progress, I am moving closer to that ultimate dream. So every day, what I did to ensure that I felt successful, even though I'd been slowest in the pool, laughed at, pushed around, joked about, I would write down, well, today everyone was laughing at me. And this time, instead of crying for 2 days, I cried for maybe 5 minutes. Progress. Maybe I went 5 seconds quicker, on my mile run. Check. Whether it was something physical, emotional, mental, log progress, every single. People would ask me, Greg, all the time, like, what are you doing? Because I was working a 70-hour-a-week job at a YMCA, and they'd see me like working out at 4 a.m. before work, working out during my lunch hour, working out after work, but I sucked. So they're like, what keeps you going? And what kept me going, what kept me from getting discouraged was logging my progress every day. Eventually, as the years went by, as the weeks went by, I'm making these big improvements. But in order to achieve, so you think about what is that huge goal that you have right now? Show up as a guy that's achieved it. Show up as a girl that's achieved it. How does she, what are her habits? His habits. Seen on what do you believe about success and failure? What do you believe about you? Why does this matter? And show up as that person every single.
The future you, one of the exercises that I go through each year is at the beginning of the year, I will write a letter to myself as if I've already lived the year, and talking celebrations, talking about failures, and it's incredible when you go through the year, how many of those things you actually achieve, because to your point, you sort of visualize and you're showing up as the future you in the current day moment. So Siri, bringing this fast forward, what big goals are you working on now? What's like, bring us up to today and how you've used those lessons learned and that mindset into the work you're doing now.
Well, first of all, what you just said, Greg, and everyone listening, what Greg just said is so powerful. Writing a letter to yourself. And to be honest, saved my life. In I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia 4.5 years ago, and I had a genetic mutation, which was, normal treatment weren't going to save my life. I had maybe a 5% chance of survival. Got on 2 clinical trials and fought for my life. I wanted to live. And one of the things I did, Greg, to your example, is I wrote a speech in my mind as I lay in my hospital, so sick, 80 life, but I was writing a speech in my head, sharing how I conquered AML, how I not only survive, but how I'm thriving on the other side. So in that, what you're doing is that you are thinking about all the things you could possibly do to achieve that. You're coming up with possible solutions. Your mindset isn't thinking about everything that could go wrong. Your mindset is going to, so what can I do to have this result? Future me, the one that's going to survive and thrive on the other side, what actions is she taking every single day? So that is such a powerful, I'm sorry to answer your question, but that is such a powerful exercise. What you did, Greg, and what I did, I honestly think that played a huge part in saving my life.
Mm.
How did you do it? How did you achieve that dream? What were the failures along the way? What did you learn from them? What were your successes? How does it feel now? So powerful.
So, Siri, I'm going to cut you off a little bit, and we'll get back to the original question in a second. But I have to ask, how different was the speech that you wrote while in the hospital bed to reality?
Pretty much identical. I mean, obviously, like when you're sick, I couldn't write anything down. It even kind of was hard to think, but there were the basics. There was the mindset shift in every single moment. There was loving myself through, the toughest parts. There was gratitude. There was visualization. There was vision boards, stacking my truth day after day after day. You know, all of that is what I talk about. And as I thought about
Mm.
that, those were the things that I tried to do every single day. So virtually identical. And I had done this before. When I first started triathlon, I remember, and I don't think I've ever shared this story. I had bought a magazine that had Karen Smyers, who had won the world championships, and the cover of Triathlete magazine said Karen Smyers on top of the world. She just won the world championships. And I took this cover and I cut out a picture of my head and I stuck it on Karen Smyers' body. And then I cut out the letters of my name and I covered hers and I put Siri Lindley on top of the world. This was like maybe a year and a half after I started. I have spots all over my body right now. When I became world champion, the cover of Triathlete magazine, and I'm lying, said Siri Lindley on top of the world. And it was my face on the cover. So
That's awesome.
I'm saying, guys, like this stuff, it works. It's seeing it happening in your mind and doing everything that you think must happen to ultimately have that be your reality. So thank you for sharing that, Greg. I mean, that's just such a powerful, powerful exercise that I believe is game changing.
I would love to have seen the cover of Triathlete magazine with your photo holding the mocked up photo that you've done years before. That would have been a pretty powerful photograph. But so jumping back to the question, how are you applying that to what you're doing now?
Oh, wow. I mean, what changed through my sickness was that I became so deeply grounded in my mission and my purpose. And what that is, I remember there was a day in the hospital where I didn't know if there was going to actually be a tomorrow. It was looking not great. And I remember thinking, am I proud? Am I happy with this life that I live? you know, and thinking about what are the things that matter most to me. And the things that came up weren't how many races I won or how many I coached to none of that. It was, did I love with all my heart? Not just the people. Did I love them with all my heart? Did I love myself? Did I love what I did every single day? Did I love with all my heart? The second one was, did I live courageously? Did I do things that scared me? Absolutely. I was part of that. I had done things that scared the crap out of me pretty much every day. And the third one, did I make a difference? Thought, yeah, I've made a difference in, a lot of athletes' lives and in the people, my close friends and family, but there's so much more. And I vowed that if I had another day, that is how I would live my life, with just those three things. I am going to love with all my heart, myself, others, what I do. I am going to live fearlessly and courageously. I do that every day, saving slaughter, trying to ban horse slaughter. Like, I'm doing that every single day, making a difference. And this has given me the most beautiful filter, Greg, because anything that comes my way, an opportunity, I ask myself, will this allow me to love with all my heart, live fearlessly, and make a difference? If the answer is yes, the answer is no, I don't. Very easy to say yes, very easy to say no. And so what I'm doing now in my life is I want to raise the vibration of the world around me. I want to make a difference in this world every single day. Now that I've found my freedom, which has been a lifelong journey, freedom to be me, freedom to love who I want to love, freedom to live my dreams and live my life on mission and purpose, I want to help guide others to their freedom, including horses, which you can't see this side of the wall, but it's all the horses we've saved up on the wall. I want to make a difference every single day. I'm here for a reason. It's basically a miracle that I am here today. And I lost friends that didn't make it. We're on the same clinical trials. It's me. But I cannot live with survivor's guilt. I have to live with survivor's responsibility. And that is that I want to pour my heart and soul and everything I have into this life, into making a difference, into touching lives, and into inspiring and guiding others. And that's what I'm here for. And I hope that I've done a little bit of that today with you, Greg, but I'm thankful for any opportunity um, to help people see the possibility for themselves in me. If they're in a period of self-doubt or a period of, you know, unrelenting fear, that hopefully I can, spark something inside of them that says, well, man, if she can do it, so can I.
Awesome. So, as a podcast host and a growing podcast host, novice at the moment, I take a lot of pride that I cleared those 3 filters to have and capture some of your time today.
You,
So, another question, um, talk to me a little bit about going from world champion triathlete, your time fighting cancer, to being on a public stage, right? I mean, we Google you, there's a lot of material, you're very passionate, Tony Robbins, like, there's a great list, but at what point did you say, "You know what? I'm gonna stand on a stage in front of thousands of tens of thousands of people and share this story?" Like, when did that dream come into your life?
you're going to laugh, Greg. Like, I had no plans for this. I feel so much like my life has been guided. Like, I'm being taken to places where I'm meant to be. Tony Robbins had reached out in 2016 to have me on his podcast. And when his team first called me, I thought, okay, which athlete do you want me to ask? Is it Miranda Carfrey, Leanne DeCabe, which athlete? And they said, no, we want you. And I'm thinking, me? oh my God, okay, because Tony Robbins had been an influence on my life for decades. So we did the podcast, talked for an hour and a half. Hung up, he called back again. He said, I have more questions for you. It ended up being his most downloaded podcast, like for many, many years. And so after a few weeks, he'd invited us to an event. We met in person. And then I got another email from his team saying, Siri, someone has pulled out one of the speakers at his Leadership Academy event in San Diego. Somebody's pulled out. We need you. Can you speak for an hour and a half? That's, the block. I'm not going to say no to Tony Robbins, but I had never only stages I'd ever spoken on were, thankfully, and I'm very grateful for this, accepting a Hall of Fame award and giving a speech. And apparently he'd seen that. So on that day, I prepared. I had 2 weeks to prepare. I prepared all kinds of stuff, spent every hour preparing. Got out there on that stage, didn't do anything that I had prepared. And I just kind of spoke from my heart. And that must have been what he wanted, because I've been speaking for him ever since. It's been, 8 years now. But again, I'll never forget standing behind the curtain and thinking, oh my God, I've never done this before. It's an hour and a half slot. My heart is pounding. I'm shaking from the inside out. My teeth are chattering. But I remembered that feeling. It's what it felt like on the start line of every race I did. And I thought to myself, I'm ready. I'm ready. Just be you. He's asked you to do this because of the conversation you had. That wasn't prepared for. Just be you. So I take that as a divine guidance, God's intervention saying, this is where I want you to be. And I feel so blessed. It's an ultimate privilege for Tony and his entire team to believe that I have something truly be a gift, be a blessing to his audiences. And I'm very thankful. I would not have pictured this life as it is today, but I love it. And I'm real happy and grateful that I was guided to find something that truly does feel like it's meant to be.
It's definitely meant to be, because you are amazing. And I also needed to thank you and Beck for your Instagram feeds, because once a week I feel like I get a free training lesson by watching your videos, going through your workouts. It's and a little bit of motivation. It's like, oh, it's Monday and I haven't done anything, and here we are already posting on Instagram. Siri, how can an audience member connect with you?
We've got my website is just SiriLindley.com. Together with my amazing wife, Rebecca Keat, we also run the Siri and Beck Squad. It has been life-changing for hundreds of people around the world. It's 15 to 20 minutes a day working out, but they're really energy infused, intervals, fun. Anybody can do it. 15 to 20 minutes a day. We have had people just achieving the most extraordinary results on this program. We'd love for you to join. Greg, Greg, that'd be so cool.
It would be.
But we have that, and we're on Instagram, and our horse rescue is Believe Ranch and Rescue. We're on Instagram and Facebook. You can follow us there, but we try to give as much as we can. And, the sport has given us both so much. This life has given us both so much, and all we want is to be able to give back. So everything we do is with the desire to truly make a beautiful difference in your life and the lives of everyone who follows us. So I thank you for following us. And I'm so happy to hear that it's, our stuff resonates with you, Greg. That means the world.
I was preparing for Ironman Copenhagen and the open water swim, and I was going through a lot of your content about different techniques. And so then I got back to the pool and I tried all these different things and ended up having a great swim race. So again, back at you. Siri, I know you pressed for time. Thank you for being on the show. Audience members, let's share this message with our community. There's been a lot of deep learning in this conversation with Siri today. Check her out. Follow them on Instagram. Follow her and Beck. Their training programs are amazing. What you're doing for the horse community too. Thank you for that. We didn't really touch on it, but you can find that information online. Please like the show. Please subscribe. Share this with your community. Again, Siri, it's awesome seeing you again and having you on our show.
Greg, thank you so much for this beautiful work that you do, for spreading, the good word on all kinds of things that are truly going to make everybody's lives better. You're a gift, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity. So thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for listening today.
Thank you for tuning in to the Chief Endurance Officer podcast. To hear more inspiring stories and strategies around the endurance mindset, be sure to subscribe below or visit us at chiefinduranceofficer.com. Until next time, keep pushing those limits.